Welcome to an introduction to Python course. In this video, we're going to look at a while loop in Python. Let's get into it. This is a syntax for a while loop. The Boolean expression part of the loop is to control how many times the loop should execute. The statements will execute as long as the Boolean expression evaluates to true. The indentations are required. They tell us which statements are under the while loop and which statements are not. We generally use counter variables to control the repetitive nature of our loops, and to use a variable in an expression, in this case a Boolean expression, you first have to initialize or give that variable a value. Then you use it in the expression, and most importantly make sure that at some point your expression will return false so that the loop can stop. Let's look at a simple example. First, the counter variable is defined, rightly calling it a counter here, and then used in the loop's Boolean expression. So the loop will execute the statement, printing a counter and incrementing a counter by 1. Let's look at it closely. The expression checks if counter is less than 10. And if it is, then it is printed out, and after printing a counter you increment it by 1, meaning you increase the value of counter by 1. Start at line 1, right? Start at the first line and set counter to 0. Move to line 2 and check if 0 is less than 10. The answer is true, so we enter the loop, go to line 3 and print counter, which is 0. Go to line 4 and increase counter by 1, and now counter is 0 plus 1, which is 1. Now go back to line 2 because line 5 is outside the loop. Like I said, statements within the loop are indented by the indentation or spaces, and a loop means repeat, so we repeat until the Boolean expression returns false. So at line 2, now counter is 1, so we compare, is 1 less than 10? The answer is true, so we go inside the loop, and line 3, print 1, and line 4, increase counter by 1, and now counter is 2. So back to line 2, now counter is 2, and we compare, is 2 less than 10? The answer is true, so we go inside the loop, and line 3 prints 2, and line 4 increase counter by 1, and counter is now 3. So we keep going back, it's a repetitive. Now counter 3, compare 3 by 10 with 10, the answer is true, so we go inside the loop and print 3, line 4 increases 3 by 1, and now counter is 4. So back to line 2, counter now is 4, and we compare, is 4 less than 10? The answer is true, so we go inside the loop, and line 3 prints 4, and line 4 increases counter by 1, and now counter is 5. So back to line 2, now counter is 5, we compare, is 5 less than 10? True, so we go inside the loop. Line 3 prints 5, line 4 increase counter by 1, and now counter is 6. So back to line 2, now counter is 6, we compare, is 6 less than 10? The answer is true, we go inside the loop, and line 3 prints 6, and line 4 increases counter by 1, and now counter is 7. So back to line 2, now counter is 7, and we compare, is 7 less than 10? True, so we go inside the loop, and line 3 prints 7, and line 4 increases counter by 1, now counter is 8. So back to line 2, now counter is 8, and we compare, is 8 less than 10? The answer is true, so we go inside the loop. Line 3 prints 8, line 4 increases counter by 1, and now counter is 9. So back to line 2, now counter is 9, and we compare, is 9 less than 10? The answer is true, so we go inside the loop, and line 3 prints 9, and line 4 increase counter by 1, and now counter is 10. So back to line 2, now counter is 10, we compare, is 10 less than 10? Now the answer is false, so we do not go inside the loop since the expression returns false this time. So we move on to line 5 and print outside the loop, and our code ends. Alright, I will switch to PyCharm to show you more examples. Here's what we have just looked at. Counter is initialized. Remember, you have to define your variables before you can use them, and in defining them you give them values. Counter initially has a 0 as its value. We print the starting and then start the loop. Pay attention to how your loop executes. Ask yourself what condition will make your loop stop, or whether your Boolean expression will ever return false. Once again, it's easy to see that if you keep increasing the value of counter, it is going to be more than 10 at some point, making our condition false. When I run this, no surprises, we get the same result. Here's another example. Using the same loop to print odd numbers between 0 and 10, and this time 10 is included, you can tell by less or equal operator on our Boolean expression. But this time notice that we only print counter if counter mod 2 is not equal to 0, making it an odd number. After the if statement, we always increase the value of counter by 1, making sure that our loop stops when counter is more than 10. And to make this work for even numbers, you just have to change the not equal to operator to equal to operator. It's that simple. The next example, I would like to introduce the keyword break. This keyword is used to exit the loop, break out of the loop, or terminate the loop. So when Python sees this break keyword, it stops the loop and continue executing the next line after the loop. Notice how our while loops Boolean expression part is just the value true, which means it will never stop. It will loop forever. But because of the keyword break, we have a way out of the loop. And our way out is on line 8. If counter is 10, then line 9 says exit the loop, meaning skip everything and go to line 16 where the print done is, because that's outside the loop. This code is the same as the previous code, but this time with break keyword. It still prints even numbers from 0 to 10, 10 not included. You can play around with that range. Next is the continue keyword. The continue keyword returns the control to the beginning of the current loop. When continue is encountered, the loop starts next iteration without executing the remaining statement in the current iteration. For example, when counter is 2, line 9 check if 2 is odd or even by checking if it is divisible by 2. And that is the case, so we go to line 10 and increase the value of a counter, and then line 11 we encounter continue, and instead of going to line 13 we go straight to line 7 and starts another iteration. So if a number is even, it will not be printed out because we're just going to continue, and if it is odd, then the if statement fails and we go to line 13 and then line 14 and go back to line 7. Next we look at a sentinel value. This is a value we use to terminate a loop, but you have to code the condition that guarantees that. So look at an example. We printing odd or even. If the number you enter is odd is printed out, and if the number is even is printed. But if a -1 is entered, the loop terminates. So run this on your machine and play around with it and make changes as you like. So our exercise is the same as before, but this time we have to use a while loop and a sentinel value. You can try first with, say, numbers between 0 and 100, and then after that see if we can do the same with sentinel value. Alright, see you in the next video.